It was a normal process where I started with a condo and I transitioned into a single family home, and I was able to keep that condo, but I never considered myself a landlord. I was probably losing money on that property because I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, and prices are super expensive here. So even though I was renting it out, it was taking money out of my pocket basically every month.
Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. I have Mark, who is the financial firefighter, who has a YouTube channel that you should check out. I will leave a link in the description below.
And I took out a home equity line of credit on the condo. And that's when I decided to invest almost 4,000 miles away in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I used that equity to get my first property in Pittsburgh.
Okay, so before 2021, then you had a condo and a single family house? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And so with the condo, you took out a home equity line of credit, or on the house?
The condo was the one initially.
Okay, and it was rented out.
Yeah.
So you found a lender who would do a home equity line of credit on a rental, which sometimes we hear people say you can't do.
So in Hawaii, we have very favorable lines of credit out here, home equity lines of credit. So you can do them on investment properties, especially if you're a resident here, and it's up to usually 70% loan to value on these properties. So you can use the equity from your investment properties.
And then you invested at a distance. Why didn't you invest in Hawaii? It just seems like you live there, you know the areas. It would be super easy to do.
Well, it's just like Dion, a lot of times the where you live, the prices are so expensive that it's definitely hard to cash flow. So most of the properties out here, there you do get great appreciation, but you're gonna have to wait so many years to actually benefit from that. So for me, I started looking out of state. One of my friends was investing out of state and looking for properties that cash flow. And that's why we started looking into markets, Midwest, Northeast, but we ended up in Pittsburgh.
Was there anything about that specific market that said this is the one we're going to go for?
So for me, it was my suggestion is you get with a team or piggyback off of someone else's experience. And my friend was already investing there because he had family members in that area. So that's why he started investing. So he also lives in Honolulu, Hawaii, but he was investing in Pittsburgh. And he was always talking to me about investing. And I decided to look into it. And he got me to look into that market. And it wasn't the best market. I'll be honest. There's a lot of great markets out there. To me, what's more important is having boots on the ground or having a team in place. And I also felt comfortable because my friend made a lot of mistakes in the beginning of his journey. So I felt like he ironed out all these wrinkles and he kind of had a system in place. So it made me more comfortable as far as jumping into that market.
No, it's very familiar because, we both know Millennial Mike. He basically did something very similar where he had a friend, Matsky Finance, who was investing in Gary, Indiana, who kept kind of badgering Mike to say, hey, this is working for me. You should check it out. And Mike said, after a while, I realized he's got the system in place. He's got the boots on the ground. I think he would agree that there are better markets than Gary, Indiana. There are better markets than Pittsburgh, but those trusted boots on the ground and the systems in place with somebody that you trust, to me, is more important than the market. I guarantee there are markets that are better than where my rentals are, but I'm here, trusted boots on the ground. So before 2021, then, you had the condo and the house. You started investing in Pittsburgh. What does your portfolio look like now in 2023?
So I still have my primary residence. I have 14 single family homes in Pittsburgh now. That condo that I did have, I did a 1031 with that to acquire properties in Pittsburgh. And I also have as a partnership, a single tenant commercial unit in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I've also done as an LP an investment in a syndication deal.
Okay, so you're starting to kind of diversify those investments.
Yes.
And we haven't really talked about it, but I'm guessing financial firefighter. You have a W-2 job currently.
Currently, yes. Hopefully not too much longer, but yes, I do work for the Honolulu Fire Department. And of 15 years now, I started with the Federal Fire Department first. So I have 17 years in the fire service. And recently, I just got my real estate license with RE/MAX Honolulu.
And you were telling me before we started recording that your coworkers kind of think you're crazy for trying to retire early. What's your response when they say that?
My response is that I still love the job, and it's a great job. It's been a great job. However, I want to do other things in life, and you can have a great career, working 10 years in the fire service. You could have a wonderful, amazing career, help a lot of people. However, do you really need to do it for 25 or 30 years? I mean, it's not a young man's job. I definitely feel it in my body, and I just feel like I've been there, done that. I still love it. However, there's a lot of other things that I want to do and just enjoy life, and spend time with my son and family and whatnot.
I get the same question. I left a job that I really liked. Everyone knew I liked my job. And my answer is always time freedom. Time freedom wins out even over a job that you love. So less than 2 years, we're coming up on 2 years of investing, 14 units. Is there anything you would have done? So I have two questions. First, is there anything you would have done different? And second, was there enough equity in your condo to buy 14, or what other strategies did you use? Because I know there's some retirement account talk that we're going to get to here in a minute. What would you do different?
What would I do different? Definitely, I wouldn't have gone or scaled as quickly as I have. I think Dion and Lumberjack Landlord, they talk about this all the time. It takes time for properties to get stabilized. And I think the first couple properties actually tricked me into thinking that this process was an easy process, where it was the first few were, tenant got placed, no problems, everything was running smoothly. And I was like, oh, this is the path, and this is the way to do things. And I went all in, and I mean, I'm glad I did it. However, there's been a lot of hiccups and a lot of headaches along the way, as far as, it does take time. It does take time for properties to get stabilized. And sometimes I found a lot of deals during the winter months, which was great, but I didn't have a stable portfolio at the time. So, trying to placing 8 to 10 tenants at one time of the year in an area that a lot of people aren't moving or looking for properties to rent, it was hard to get a lot of these properties with a tenant in place in the beginning. So even though I found great deals, it was probably wiped out by trying to find these tenants, or take a lot longer to find tenants than I was anticipating.
It does seem like in the beginning, the first few deals are the ones where we tend to make our mistakes. So it seems like maybe that's the first few years instead of maybe the first couple of deals. So you would have gone a little slower to stabilize more. You're thinking, okay, so the other thing is, you have talked about it a couple of times in the comments, you've emptied out a retirement account to take the money and put it to work. Eventually, you're walking away from a job where if you stayed longer, you'd get a bigger pension. Correct me on this, but it sounds like you have faith in real estate.
Most definitely. I feel the more that I've looked into it, researched it, and been hands-on in it, I just see it as the path to, financial freedom. The retirement accounts are better than nothing. I mean, if you're not going to do anything, that's definitely, you want to at least make sure you're doing that. However, when I was looking at it year after year, the money I was putting into it, it just wasn't growing, or it didn't seem as if it was going to be enough when I planned to retire. And so for me, I looked at it as, the cash flow aspect of it, where I can also use that cash flow I'm getting from rentals to redeploy into other assets, or kind of scale your portfolio quicker. That's what attracted me to the real estate side, is that you're getting cash flow now where, like Michael Zuber always says, maybe 4 rentals is all you want. And that cash flow can change your life, overnight. But at the same time, using that cash flow to grow a bigger portfolio also attracted me. And the retirement accounts, they're safe, they're stable. However, you're not really getting any benefits on a yearly basis, as far as you're not able to use that, that growth and to scale your portfolio.
Right. I've made a lot of videos on my opinion of retirement accounts, but I agree with you. If you have no investing strategy that has a chance of getting a better return, it's better than nothing. Right. And even I contributed for the match. Like, I continued to do that even after I emptied it out. And I'll probably someday invest at a distance. When I do that, I'm going to do like you and Mike did. I'm going to find somebody who has a system in place that I trust, partner up with them, and figure out how to invest in a new market.
But not today.
Also, I might take this out of the video. We'll see, depending on how you feel with this. What does the cash flow look like after 2 years of investing with 14 rental units at a distance in another state?
So the cash flow right now is about $8,000 before my property management expenses and like my CapEx expenses. So I put aside, I want to say I probably cash flow 4,500 to 5,000, I would say. And I use that to pay down the HELOC that I also use to get that. Actually, pay down the HELOC, but that's also, like I didn't mention earlier, as far as mistakes I made, is to building up a better reserves. So as scaling or going too quickly, I also didn't plan very well for the amount of reserves I had. So what I thought I had as a significant amount really turned out to be not enough, and that's also a big problem to have, when you're trying to scale and these unexpected expenses come up. And so for me, it was kind of getting creative, and I don't recommend it. However, I got creative, and I've used, credit cards for expenses and to kind of use for reserves. And so those are things that you definitely don't kind of plan. I didn't plan very well for those. And that's why right now, whatever cash flow I'm getting is paying down the HELOC and trying to build up a better reserves.
Okay, I like it. There's a couple of bits of advice that people can take away from there. The first is, I can't stress enough how important reserves are in the beginning. When we make a mistake in the beginning with a purchase, sometimes it's because we don't know of an expense that we should have known to check for. Not everyone gets their plumbing scoped to see if there's roots growing through on their first purchase because they're trying to save $150. So then they have an $8,000 expense. I kept a reserve of at least $10,000 when I had a small portfolio, and it was over several years to grow. So I had 2 years between purchases in the beginning to find out about problems and fix them. If you're scaling as fast as you did, I don't think $10,000 would be enough of a reserve. I think that may be the baseline lowest one. But if you're going to have 14 units where you could have 8 tenant turnovers at once in the winter months, I think a person would really have to think of how much reserves they're going to want in that situation. So keep good reserves. Don't scale as fast. That is your suggestion. There are some people who scale much faster, right? And they do just fine. But there are people who don't do just fine, who scale faster and scale slower. The other thing is, figure out what works for your market. You're in an expensive, high cost of living area where it doesn't seem like you were able to find the cash flow. Somebody is investing there, maybe with a longer time horizon, but you found a market. Use your network, find other investors that you trust that are investing in another market. That, to me, like you said, it's better to pick the market you have trusted boots on the ground on than to pick the market that just has the best return. Because if you find a market with a great return and you call the agents there and you say, I have Honolulu money, I would like to invest in Arkansas or whatever market you've picked, the agent is going to send you a deal that looks great, sounds great, and every local investor passed because of something you wouldn't know to look for. You have a great story. I think it's really cool that you're trying to share it with people. You have a regular job, right? Firefighters, you don't make $2 million a year. You have a regular income. You're walking away from an increased pension so that you can have your time freedom back with your kid. I guarantee people are going to have questions. Mark, how can they get a hold of you?
You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, Financial Firefighter, or check out my YouTube channel at Financial Firefighter.
I recommend people check it out because the good thing about our channels being as small as they are is we can still answer every question that comes in. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.